Welcome to Spiritual Happy Hour.
Woohoo!
We are always so excited to be here with all of you. And tonight, or today, or whatever time it is you're watching this, Marilyn has a very special message about partying. So stick around. And we loosely base our messages to all y'all on A Course of Miracles or Adironda or whatever we feel like talking about in that
What if they
moment.
don't know who Adironda is?
Stick around. You will be so glad you did.
And we want to thank the master, Randy Luna, for his amazing musical genius.
He's amazing. And we want to thank the Carlicious back there on the monitors for making sure that we actually make it to the recording.
You thank Carlicious. I thank Carl Phonologist Fink because, you know, the liciousness is hers. We have to be careful here. On another subject.
Okay, what are we going to talk about today,
On
Marilyn?
another subject, I have to warn you that I may get a little bit sciencey in my message today because I kind of went down a brain rabbit hole.
You mean you used Google?
Yes. I
okay.
use a lot of Google.
Okay. And you use Wikipedia?
I did.
There you go.
Actually, I did.
Because we know everything on the internet is true.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely it is. And it happens to me when I start looking for something or, you know, looking for an idea or a story or a quote. But this actually happened when I was reading a book.
Wow.
I don't read very often.
That was
or
my
at
next
all.
question. You read a book?
Well, I read part of a book.
Or you read my book with the underlines?
No, I didn't read your book with the underlines.
Okay.
I actually have my own book for A Course in Miracles Experiment by Pam Grout.
Oh, I love that book.
You know,
That's one
she
of my
told a
favorites.
story that I just thought was so great. She told this story about a little girl who was in preschool. I mean, her mom and her mom's friend were there in the room and they were watching her. And this little girl was dancing just up a storm. She was dancing with such abandonment, you know, like no one was watching.
Oh, like we do before the cameras are rolling?
Yes, like we do before the cameras are rolling. She was moving to her music with the old, you know, her own modern dance moves, like I do on Do You Think You Can Dance or one of those TV shows. It was so great. And, you know, the mom's friend looked at the little girl and said, well, I'm impressed. Do you want to be a dancer someday? And the little girl looked at the mother's friend straight in the eye and said, what do you mean? I already am. You know, and that's really the key with where we are. I mean, we already are everything we would ever want to be. We don't just acknowledge it. We are that. Whatever it says in A Course in Miracles, we already have everything. We already are everything. Our heart's desire is always exactly what's being created. It's exactly what we think of. It's exactly what we dream of. It's exactly what we accomplish. Somehow, somewhere in time, somewhere along the line, we got out of that habit. We stepped into the belief that we could not be or have or experience whatever we want. Well, I am going to provide you with a little scientific facts as to what positive and what negative thinking can do in your brain and help you restore your own belief in yourself. What did Mark Twain say? Dance like no one is watching, sing like no one is listening, love like you've never been hurt, and live like it's heaven on earth right now. You know, all that is possible. When we were in preschool, at least, we knew that it was. What did she say? I already am a dancer. But as we grew older, judgment from others, even eventually judgment of ourselves, came in to filter our own beliefs. It's like, how in the world does that happen? We started off very clear, very pure, loving ourselves and everything around us. And then we start looking more closely at the frustration stories, the anger stories, the physical pain stories, the hurt stories. And those stories became how we actually defined ourselves more than what actual reality is. I know I used the word actual twice in one sentence, but it's really important. When we tell those old stories, when we tell any story, actually, there's that word again, the motor and sensory cortexes of our brain, and as well as the frontal cortex of our brain, is actually more engaged during the storytelling creation and the processing of that story. Those networks in our brain are nurtured and solidified by feelings of anticipation of whatever the story's resolution could be. And it involves an output or an input of what our brain considers candy, which is dopamine. A new brain imaging study that they did at MIT shows that the hippocampus, which is like this circular little place right in the center of your brain or near the center of your brain, is actually the brain's storyteller, connecting separate parts, separate events, distant events into a single narrative. And people love stories. We find it easier to remember events when they are part of an overarching narrative or a story. I mean, when we tell a story, any story, something happens to us that is really quite surprising when we are listening to that story, and it happens in the brain. Say you're trying to get information across to someone else or a group of people, and you present a PowerPoint presentation, pictures, right? A PowerPoint presentation with lots of facts and figures on it. Parts of the brain, when they see all those facts and figures, actually shut down. A certain portion of the brain is activated. That's the Broca or the Wernicke area. And the words hit our language center, and then crickets. Nothing else happens. But according to a group of researchers in Spain, when we are told a story that is creating like a visual image or something that the listener's imagination can get involved in, even though it might be the same kind of facts and figures as that PowerPoint presentation, things change dramatically. Not only are the language processing parts of our brain activated, but other parts of our brain are empathizing and in ways actually experiencing the events in the story as well. Now think about this. I'm telling you a particularly gruesome story about what happened to me or a friend of mine. I include all the juicy details. Your brain, are actually experiencing it as though it happened to you. If I tell you about some great food or some wonderful restaurant, your sensory cortex lights up. And then you have a response to the taste that you are imagining, and that response actually happens in your mouth when you think about that food or that story. Your mouth may even start to water. I mean, when a person tells a story, our brain actually synchronizes. When you listen to a story, your brain actually synchronizes to the events in that story. It stimulates automatically our imagination, our intuition, and our brain actually starts looking for memories that it can connect with that story so we can feel the story more deeply by sheer association. I mean, the brain is an amazing organ. Now let's turn the tables a bit. You're telling a story of something that has happened to you, something that would be interpreted as bad or negative or having a negative impact. I mean, like the other day, I was at an event and I had 3 very short conversations with a person, this person I would consider pretty enlightened, someone that teaches spiritual growth, someone who you may go to for help to help you learn how to be a better person. In those 3 short, separate conversations, they were like 5 minutes long, this person told me each time how they had COVID and how bad it was. They thought they were going to die. They actually felt the pain, and they described that pain, and they described how they couldn't breathe, and they not only described it in detail each time they told it to me, they actually got physically short of breath. Then I started thinking about the 2 times that I had COVID, and I thought, well, mine wasn't nearly as bad as that. And then I realized I was feeling short of breath. I was empathizing with her. Yikes! When I asked how many times she had had COVID, I was shocked when she just said, once, that was enough. So she was reliving that one time every single time she told that story. And 3 times in, 3 short 5-minute conversations in the same day, that's a lot. You see, negative thoughts actually create negative channels in your brain. This way of thinking can become your default. If you do a lot of negative thinking, you're wiring your brain to be good at producing negative thoughts. Let me say that again. When you do a lot of negative thinking, you're actually wiring your brain to be good at producing negative thoughts. Your brain also gets good at seeing things to think about negatively. It's like a habit. You in the brain start searching for negative thoughts, reinforcing that habit of negative thinking. Now, in the right part of your brain, just above your eyeball, you will find the right prefrontal cortex. I'll call it PFC. This part of your brain is actually responsible for your negative thoughts. So when people have repeated negative thoughts for a long time, they may even experience depression over it, but a medical visualization has shown that that part of the brain is hyperactive, and it actually becomes overdeveloped. You could say it looks like an overtrained muscle in a bodybuilder who uses too many steroids. Now, on the left part of your brain, you will find that is the part that's responsible for your positive and optimistic thoughts. During periods of feeling down or pessimistic, stress, depression, this zone, when you are depressed or upset or feeling negative, the zone on the left side of your brain is actually smaller, or it looks smaller. It becomes underdeveloped. Every thought you have, and it's estimated that, 60,000 thoughts ricochet in your mind every minute, your brain actually pumps out a chemical that influences the way you feel. And it happens almost instantly. Clinical neuroscientist and psychologist or psychiatrist Daniel Amin, MD, said, whenever you have a sad thought, an unkind thought, or a hopeless thought, such as, I'm never going to land that dream job I always wanted, your brain actually pumps out a dose of chemicals that make you feel bad, almost like you might have the flu. On the flip side, that left side of the brain can be activated as well. It conjures up happy, loving, encouraging thoughts. Your brain then gives you a blissful jolt of feel-good chemicals like dopamine. Most people say they have no control over their automatic negative thoughts, which are called ants. Automatic negative thoughts, ants. But in actuality, they do. Think of ants. automatic negative thoughts, as real ants. When you're having a picnic and you've laid out your blanket, or maybe in your kitchen every spring, you see one ant, then you see two, then you see three, four, and then a whole stream of ants. What do? Nothing? Do you pick up your picnic and go somewhere else? Do you sell your house? No, you don't. You do something about it. You set out an ant trap, or you brush them off of the blanket. Amin actually did a study, a brain imaging study, comparing hundreds of women. I don't know why it was women and not men, but he compared it to women with the effects of ants, automatic negative thinking, and gratitude on the brain function. For this study, he actually performed 2 brain scans on each person. One, while they were contemplating things that they were grateful for in their life, and another while their head was filled with negativity. Ants. The first scan, the one where she thought things were wonderful and grateful and everything was beautiful in her world, and she was thinking about her family and how much she loved her kids and all of that, that caused enhanced brain function on all levels in the brain. The regions of her brain associated with mood looked calm and peaceful with optimal activity. They were balanced also on the left and right side of the brain. Then, when she thought of scary stuff, like her dog dying or losing her job, seeing herself or her family as sick or homeless, 2 important regions of her brain showed a serious and very concerning decrease in activity. First, it looked like her cerebellum, usually one of the most active areas of the brain, had gone on strike. Now, the cerebellum is located at the back of the brain, and the cerebellum is involved in motor coordination, thought, and organized thought, and is essential for processing complex information. When this region is underactive, people actually tend to be clumsier, both in their physical movement and in their cognitive processes. Another thing that happens is the activity in her temporal lobe actually plummeted with all of the negative thinking. Now, the temporal lobe plays an important role in mood, memory, and temper control. I mean, take my brother as an example. In school, I can remember when he was in elementary school and junior high, he got terrible grades. The whole thing. He didn't do his homework. He began to believe anyway that he was really stupid, that he wasn't smart enough to do the work. He became very quiet, and oh my gosh, did he ever have a temper. Then when they tested his IQ was 165. That's genius. That fact, that knowledge changed his personality. So now why did he do poor in school before then? Because someone, somewhere along the line, drilled into him that he wasn't smart enough to do the work. And then the ants started telling him all kinds of stories about that attitude. Take me, for example. My dad, who was a wonderful man, he would never do anything consciously to hurt me. I always knew, I never even questioned that I was loved. But my dad used to joke about me being his hard luck daughter. He would laugh and say, I attracted hard luck or bad luck everywhere. I bought that story, and negative things continued to happen until I realized what I was creating. I mean, you see, it's if you believe something about yourself, your brain is buying it and will start creating situations all around you to reinforce what you believe about yourself. So what could be an example of that? Think about it. I mean, for me, okay, my friends in the 7th grade got really mad at me because I didn't do something, or they at least thought I didn't do something. My date in the 9th grade to the Job's Daughter dance left me at the dance. I married a man that had an affair with my best friend. Then I married another man which molested my son. Well, I could go on and on about those situations. I created them. You're synchronizing with me, aren't you? I can tell. I created them because I thought at the time that this harmless words from my dad, hard luck daughter, was what was creating my life. I know you are thinking about what I just told you, empathizing with me, because that's what we do. Stop it. Stop telling those stories. Stop it. Stop telling those stories. Do you get it? I kept having bad luck until I realized I truly create my own luck. I started thinking about myself so differently. Now, I am the luckiest girl around. I have a wonderful group of friends, a great business partner, a new understanding of money and life. I get to travel all over the world and meet the most amazing people like you doing what I love best. It is really that self-talk that reinforces your own beliefs, like the little girl who was already a dancer, even though she'd never taken a lesson. No one was going to tell her that she was not a dancer. I mean, who knows? She may have been a dancer now in the American Ballet Company. Again, what you focus on expands. You know that. But it's just as the person who kept expressing her pain about COVID and the fact that I was even getting short of breath, that lays down tracks of negativity in your brain, so it really becomes easier to repeat them. We know what we should focus on. We know what we focus on increases. So let's change the ants in our life to a more positive acronym. What's an acronym for positive thoughts? I Googled it. American psychologist and educator Martin Seligman said the PERMA method. That's what it is. And he says that the PERMA method represents 5 core elements of happiness and well-being. PERMA stands for positive emotion, engagements, relationships, meaning, and accomplishments. Well, that was too complicated for my brain. Oh, that's a thought. I just like to make things a little simpler and something that I can remember more easily. How about party? Party. Positive. How about party? Positivity activates resilient thoughts in you. Positivity activates resilient thoughts in you. And if you are worried about that I and the in you, positivity activates repeating thoughts in everyone. Positivity activates repeating thoughts in everyone. Then you can know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are a dancer and you can party on wherever you are. So I'm just going to dance out while the master Randy Luna comes in and plays some amazing activated music, and then we'll see what Adironda has to say about dancing around the universe. So it is good day to you, 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 good day to each and every one of you. We love you so much. And we see your little stories running around in your head, and we see that energy and that frequency of the life that you are indeed living. And we want you to remind yourself that those stories are preparing you to live the same thing over and over again. Are you ready for a new story? What could your story be like? Huh? Let's imagine that. Let's see, what could it be? We hear someone out there saying, my story is like a nap every day or a nap right now. We hear someone saying, my story is a big steak, medium rare. And when we hear someone saying, my story is about a broken relationship that I can't seem to get over. You know, when you tell that story of the broken relationship that you can't get over, you are reinforcing the can't get over part. Everyone has some sort of broken relationship or friendship. Everyone has some sort of energy in their past that they didn't seem to love in the moment that they were standing in it. But understand and know that that was given to you, that you gave that to yourself. You created that, indeed, so you could evolve through it. So aren't you ready to evolve by now? Aren't you ready to experience that frequency anew? To think, I could have a nap whenever I want. I could always eat whatever I want and I would weigh the perfect amount. My relationships are beautiful, perfect, loving, laughter-filled, and conscious. So which do you like? Which story works better for you? Keep in mind that every time you repeat those old energies from the past, we have said it many times before, it is your purchase order. And now you know scientifically how it is actually reordering the pathways in your own brain. What would it be like if the pathways in your own brain that carry those negative energies were the dormant part? And the pathways that may be the overachievers were the positive part. It is over your left eye, So let's activate that right now. Take a deep breath. We just hold that energy. And that frontal cortex or the prefrontal cortex or whatever cortex you want to activate the frequency of you. You can close your eyes. That is all right. Don't if you're driving. And you see that energy of beautiful positivity flowing into you. What color is it? For the vessel Marilyn, it is like an iridescent, very faint rose quartz color, reflecting all the colors of the rainbow very gently in that positivity. What color is it for you? Breathe into it as we activate that. And then let us allow that area that carries the negative thought, that carries the feeling of I am not enough. And we're going to allow that to deactivate, to just relax a bit. To be the underworker, the underachiever. Breathe into that intention. Visualize that part just sort of sleeping. You know, the addictive part of your brain and the depression part of your brain are right next to each other. So you can indeed become addicted to depression. The joyful part of your brain and the laughter part of your brain, the one that stimulates the physical response of laughter, are actually right next to each other. There are no accidents. So we are activating that joyful energy within you and helping you be aware when something other than joy comes in that you may be capitalizing on because it makes for a great story. When you tell that story of pain, others are synchronizing with it and feeling that pain within their own bodies. We don't believe that is your intention. When you tell that story of laughter and how you are living your dream desires, others are empathizing with that and looking at their own desires with joy. Isn't that more of what you intend? We know it is. We know it is. So this is your awareness call. This is your awareness world to help you understand what is happening in your own body so you can learn to brush those ants off the blanket. Put out an ant trap to move them somewhere else. And acknowledge the party that is going on within you all of the time. Yes, dearest, party on. We love you so much. We see you. We know you. We are you. And we bid you namaste. Namaste.